All right, YouTubers. All right, boys, this is gonna be a pretty intense situation here. This is a little bit serious. It's a little bit serious type of deal here. I'm gonna read off this paper. I'm gonna let you. W900. We're down here in Texas, and we'll slow that blower down just a tad. But it is 99 degrees. So we ain't turning the air conditioner off. You're going to have to put up with a little bit of noise. And look at the headlights on that truck. What year model is that truck? That is a W900. Well, you see how the headlights are molded in there and they're round. And is that a late 70s? I did look at the size of the tire, how it's tucked into the fender well. That's a normal ride height for 22.5. So those are 24.5 high profile rubber. And what's this apparatus he's toting around with the ABCs? Okay, so yeah. All right. Do you want to look at that while I read this deal? Or do you want to look at this? Okay. For the ones that need to pause and take note of the note and come to some conclusions. Okay, so we'll let you get back on the truck over here. Let's back her up a little bit. There you go. Okay, I think this is, hopefully you can hear it. Okay, so I was making these notes or whatever. There was a little bit of Bible study, and the old boy was talking about some stuff. And I thought, man, I need to do a series and bring up some of this goodness. And I was thinking about how, okay, we're going to talk about the Creator, okay, and then like our individual lives, okay. So the concept is, He is the one that's creating my life, okay, and I have free will. However, just like you watch the movie more than once, He already knows what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? You're watching Top Gun. You know Goose is going to die. You're still, you know, jumping off the deck, shoving it into overdrive, our way to the danger zone type of deal. Well, I was thinking about that. That's the overarching concept. And then there's this whole thing about how people talk about, are we in a simulation? So I'm like, for me, the individual, you know, and you think about a video game, how you're the player in the game, and various games is different realities, different virtual realities. You have different attributes as different characters in each video game, blah, blah, whatever. Overarching concept is the Creator of everything has human beings on planet Earth living life. And we are like, you know, writing down stuff and, you know, the history or whatever. And then I'm all about the puns. So history, his story, right? So I got this deal here. We're going to look at this deal. And so it's kind of like when you make a cake. See, these are my notes. But this is some stuff I wanted to talk about and actually be sitting still and kind of talk about this. And then I might do, well, I'm definitely going to do some more in-depth. I don't want to say teachings. I just want to say sharing what I know. You can do with it whatever you want. I think the channel's small enough and obscure enough that only those that seek will find. So that which the enemy sought as a harm will be turned to good, which is, you know, just more epic. God is good. Okay, so it's kind of like making a cake. Okay, you got your ingredients, you got your timing, you got, I mean, when you put the cake in the oven, did you preheat the oven? You got to have clean dishes. You need all your ingredients. Is your kitchen clean? Do you have the dishes clean? Is everything ready to bake the cake? Is the cake already made? And we're scheduling the party favors and stuff like that. So just like, making a cake and all the different nuances of making a cake. Okay, we see these content creators and everything, and they use the term rabbit trail. Okay, so we'll get into that later towards the end of this deal. But it's not a rabbit trail. That is a tangent of nuance. So here's a subject that's part of the cake, so to speak. And then we talk about the type of sweetener that we use. Is it stevia, dextrose, maltodextrose, regular sugar, raw sugar, cane sugar, brown sugar, honey? And, are we going to go all the way to the molecular level and, did the further processing bleach the sugar cane to make it the color that it is when it comes out of the packet? Did I get packets? Did I get a jar? Do I have a pallet size bulk container of granulated sugar? See what I'm saying? Like, that's a tangent. That is not a rabbit hole. Okay? We don't want to reference Alice in Wonderland as part of our critical thinking strategy. I find that to be understood amongst us, but it can be better. You know what I mean? Like in my quest to improve self, kinfolk, and honor God, I should at least switch from rabbit hole to tangent of nuance. And further the concept of critical thinking in the public. I was thrown into public. So, perhaps the betterment of mankind through critical thinking, bringing back to the common man sense. Okay, therefore, filling a void on another tangent. Common sense isn't common. Well, it is if you trade them. See the picture? It had a dog and a little girl. It was like a German Shepherd and about a 9-year-old girl. And the caption said, "If you trade them, they won't bite you." Or if you trade them, they're not dangerous. That's what it was. If you trade them, they're not dangerous. Okay, so creating the potter's pot. Me. All right, so I'm going to focus on me. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about I want to talk about number one. Oh, my, me, my. Okay. What I think, what I thought, what I see. I like talking about you usually. But occasionally, I want to talk about me. And I want to improve myself. Okay, so the creator, he set our environment. Okay, and we're going to go individual, then we're going to consider family, county, state, country, and then we're going to consider timelines. Okay, so this is a grandiose here in a minute, but right now it's nuance for thyself. That's a pretty truck. It looks like he's set up to haul logs, but I think, because it's greasy, that he hauls oil field equipment. Okay, so squirrel. Another tangent. Anyway, so creating the potter's pot, which is me. Now, we know that some are made for, honor, and some are made for dishonor and all that. But that's talking about, a chamber pot versus the pot that you cook stew in. So, we're going to assume that you know what a chamber pot is and a window to throw it out of. Okay, so we each have our different callings and stuff, and he makes us in a special way when he knit us together in our mother's womb. There was the spark of life, and then God himself knits us together. So that shows us that he's incredibly microscopically small and intimate in the very creation of me, okay, and of you, and of each human being. So that is a wow to be cherished, and it's also something to be remembered and pondered when you're dealing with some jackass that's making you mad, and you want to be a jerk, but you still have to give them basic dignity. Dignity is given because we're created. That's why. So I'm honoring God when I don't call this individual a piece of shit. When I address this person as sir and ma'am, I'm actually giving them dignity, and that's because they're created by the Creator in his image with certain attributes and abilities. Like being able to create, draw a picture. You know what I'm saying? The artisans are not celebrated nearly enough. Anyway, so he knew my decisions, every decision I would make for my entire life. I am 40 plus years old. You know what I mean? 4.5 decades, give or take, I've been on this planet. And I will be here until I'm not. And the entire time, he already knew what I was going to think, what I was going to say, what I was going to do, the mistakes I was going to make. Okay, tangent of nuance. Every sin of everybody that you know, this is 2025, everybody hearing my voice, your sin and the sins of everyone you can think of that you've met in person, every one of those people have sinned. Every one of those sins was after Jesus died for us and redeemed us, after the fulfillment of the law of atonement. So the atonement was done more than 1,000 years before we were even alive. That is a fact, and that should stand as fact in your headspace. However you want to look at it, and your personalizations and everything else, okay, cool, whatever, not talking about that. But there is a fact that the son of Joseph and Mary, raised by Joseph and Mary, fulfilled the law of atonement. That is a fact. There's no need to argue about that. There's no need to... That's something we can all agree on, okay? And I am not more powerful than Jesus or his dad or the Holy Ghost. We can all agree on that. So my actions and everything else like that are not of a greater substance. They're just not. I'm just a person, right? I might be, he made me a little lower than the angels, but he gave me different attributes than what the angels have. And those attributes are amazingly better than the attributes that the angels have. Otherwise, the angels wouldn't be trying to kill all the people. So that also is a fact. That also is why we extend dignity to our fellow human beings. To all life, really, to a certain degree. But right now we're talking about the potter creating the pot. Okay, so he's got you on your journey. You've developed various ages and stages up to this point in your life that you can look back at. You could probably look forward to some that you wished you would have already attained. So you got certain goals and stuff like that, right? And then whatever you value and stuff like that, you can create strategies towards obtaining those things, those places, those people, whatever, that understanding, that knowledge, that education to whatever degree. Nouns. So you got your people, places, and things. Okay, so that's all on an individual. Okay, but then we got all those people going somewhere. All those people going somewhere. Why have I never cared? Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your eyes. Lord, give me your eyes so I can see everything that I've been missing. Give me your heart for the broken-hearted. Okay, so that is a song. You can look it up on the YouTubes. It's called Give Me Your Eyes. We're supposed to speak to each other in spiritual songs and hymns. So that was me operating in obedience with a song that came to my head that I shared with the kinfolk, which is part of kingdom business, operating inside of the kingdom economy. Okay? These are concepts that we know. That's why I choose the words that I'm saying and putting them in the context that I'm saying. So all this stuff is going on. You got your life, I got my life. We all have kinfolk, people, places, and things, nouns. You know, but everybody's worried about pronouns. I'm worried about nouns. People, places, and things. Right? These are substantial. Okay, so all this stuff is going on at the same time, and God set about systems inside of each person's body so that the earth suit which he manufactured heals itself and has all these systems and abilities to walk in the earth, be the hands and feet. So if we adapt our spirit and we make his ways our ways, and we do that using our mind, will, and emotions, you know what I mean? To get attached. My mind, my will, my mind considering his ways, my will just study it. Okay, he likes this, he don't like that. So I like this and I don't like that. So now I'm more like him. Because Jesus said, I only do the things I say. And I only say the things he said. I only do the things he did. Okay, so this is our path. This is our process. Okay? And then as I learn stuff, I'll say, hey, other person, this is what I read. This is what I did. Here's the results. Okay, that's our testimony, right? And due to that fact, we overcome. And Revelation 2 and 3 has a lot to say about the overcomer. I highly recommend you look that up yourself and read it out loud. Okay, so all these things, everything in your life, everything in my life, and the lives of our loved ones is all going on at the same time. Okay, so God knew all this stuff. So like how as the world turns, and I just thought that stupid soap opera. These are the days of our lives. Okay, so everybody's got all this drama going on. You know what I mean? But, you know, every blade of grass in Texas is growing right now. You know what I mean? All the wind everywhere is the circulation of air on Earth. You know what I'm saying? All this stuff is going on, and then at the same time, God is so intricate that he's making, you know, how many babies in the womb? Like this, I mean, he's knitting like a lot. And then like he's helping us to live our lives. And how many prayers does he hear all at once? I'm reminded of that Bruce Almighty, where he tried to answer everybody's prayers. And then like, he had the attributes of God, and he was typing real fast because he got all the prayers in email form and all that stuff. Okay, so all this is coalescing together. You know what I mean? So like, you got like from your endocrine system, maintaining your carcass, your body's, reproducing how many cells a day, and then all your microbiome, and then like the rainforest. You know what I mean? There's like a giant otter playing right now somewhere in the Amazon River. You know what I mean? And then you think about these people and these different cultures and what they might be doing, from the Aboriginals to, some people in Sicily that, for whatever reason, want to get close to an active volcano, which I have no idea why somebody would do that. Seems like you'd want to get away from the erupting volcano. Pro tip: if a mountain explodes into a ball of fire, soot, and ash, greatly consider going away from it, not towards it. That's a pro tip for you. Anyway, so that's the thing. And then we got all this stuff happening together. Okay. And God's taking care of all of it. Without flaw. Without a hiccup. Now I can start a business and hire employees, get certain systems going. My machines are lined out. I got some mechanics, all this other kind of stuff. And, I could hire some guys to build me a house. Like say, hey, I built this house because it was done under my authority. So we can see the delegation where God has chosen to put certain fungus in the ground of the forest. So if there's a fire on one side, the sap goes up in the trees on the other. So all this stuff is all coalescing into right now. And if we look into the past and things that have already done, we call that history. Well, that is his story. But now let's think about it like a DVD. All of mankind's knowledge. He's watched it how many times? He knows it in the moment. That's our omnipresence. Okay? Omnipresence. Our Creator is omnipotent. Go ahead and, look that up in your dictionary. Get a good concept of what that is. He's omnipotent. Okay? So, what's played out is history, and that is his story. I call it the epic of YHWH. Kingdom and kinfolk. You know what I mean? So he made the earth. He put the people in the earth so he'd have a family. This whole thing's playing out, and it's like a proving ground, right? And then now we get to choose through self-control. Okay? So I am me, and I am a self, and when myself looks at myself, I say to myself, self, I'm better off, it is profitable, it is prosperous to be in agreement with the Creator. This makes a lot of sense. Make it make sense, right? So Jesus even is in the garden, and he prayed, let them be one as we are one. Okay, that's agreement. Like we all agree to drive on the right side of the road. So we have, the people that, cross the yellow line and hit you head on, they are out of agreement, and that is deadly. Okay, so as we obey the law of the road, and we, take a driving test, we study, we do what it takes to get the license, and then we, do the testing, and then we're able to drive, and then as we can function in society because we've learned certain things. You know, right now, 2025, there's a lot of discussion about illegal migration and stuff, and we see replacement migration and all this other kind of stuff. And those people are living somewhere under a certain rule and condition. They go to a different place, and they seem ignorant because they don't know, they wasn't grown up there. It's not their first language. They don't have a lot of the same traffic laws of the United States in India. Okay? And then, you know, some breeds of people do different things differently and have different attributes. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? If a trait in a person is elevated towards, you know, they got a certain bend, you know, they're more towards this or more towards that, or this group of people is honoring certain attributes, those people will, with those attributes, will produce more children. So there will be a compounding. Okay? And then when you look at this stuff, you know, all of this is happening, and God not only built it all, knew it all would happen, but He set it all in motion. You know what I'm saying? So at a certain point for me, I get into this why me? Why me? And I did not get to where I was at due to discipline. I got to where I was at a necessity because I was broken. I was, you know, scraping the bottom of the barrel. I grew up at the end of the last dirt road. I had a mental blockage that everybody hated me for whatever reason. And then those close to me that I actually talked to told me that I had a certain intelligence about me. Okay, so I've heard that quite a bit. They called me a 40-year-old midget. So even though I was at the Blackbird Saloon with Mom and Dad playing music, and I was, you know, a sideshow piece rolling joints on the stage, people said, well, look, he can do that. And they got a kick out of it, you know what I mean? And they called me a 40-year-old midget because I talked to everybody then just like I talk to everybody right now. There's very little difference. And so that's a thing. And that's the way God wired me. That's the way God built me. And then my stature, down to my endocrine system, my skeleton, all this type of stuff is specific to me. And yours is specific to you. Okay? So these people spoke these things over me. So because I was told I had a certain intelligence, I thought I had intelligence. So I accepted it. And then, you know, my wife, who's smarter than I am, she was told, you know, that she's late, that she was born late and she'll always be late and blah, blah. So it's difficult for her to be placed to get on time because of what she's been told and this thing that she accepted. The word accepted is extremely powerful. Okay? So, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? Find that. Pick any topic. Find what the Bible says. Whatever it says, agree with it. And in that moment, you're in agreement with the Creator. So the more that you delight yourself, David said that he delighted himself daily in the law. Okay, the law is how to act appropriately in the earth. It's God's opinion. You know what I mean? Like you don't even have to guess. Like all these twist-off religions and human sacrifice and all kind of BS. You know, everything government, everything tax, all of that stuff is askew because people are trying to get over on each other. The love of money is the root of all evil. It's wicked, it's evil, it's nasty, and we're all affected by it. And it's an attempt of the enemy to try to make you think that God's law, the Torah, is somehow more than you can do, is somehow bad, is somehow to be feared. Like, don't read it. Oh, if you read the law, you know what the law is now, so you're held accountable because you know what it is. You're held accountable to read the law and figure it out. Like, that's one of the requirements. And then as you struggle to try to adjust your mind, will, and emotions into a similar agreement with the Creator's mind, will, and emotions, that creates a certain struggle. Like a marriage, it's a certain struggle. It's this orchestra. And as you're growing up from a young man, all I got's my perspective. So from a young man to a young man that's going to school, to a young man that's, trying to cut wood and keep the fire going because his, dad's on the road. It's the middle of winter. I'm 7. I don't know how to get the chainsaw to start because it's a Poland chainsaw, which is a piece of junk. And I'm over here had to pump the oiler with your thumb, and that button broke, so Dad made a button. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a Poland chainsaw, it was a jerry-rigged together Poland chainsaw, and I did not even know how to mix the gas properly. So as luck would have it, I had an axe, so I'm out there chopping down a tree about as big around as my forearm, and chopping a stick off of it, bring it in the house, throw it in the fire, go back, chop another stick, bring it in. The first stick's almost burned up, throw the next stick in, repeat the process over and over and over. And my mom had asthma, my sister had asthma, they're both sick. The house is about to freeze up. I think they're going to die. And I end up, chopping wood and keeping the fire going a little over 2 days, almost three days. You know what I mean? 47 hours waking with 6 hours of sleep during that time. And yes, the fire did go out, and I did have to get the fire going again in a trailer house at the end of the last dirt road, age 7. So what does that teach a man? You know what I mean? And then my dad would look at me and he would say, "You're the man of the house while I'm gone. Take care of your mom and your sister." Okay. Dude, I'm driving around the whole country now, handing out Bibles, taking care of the kinfolk. Everything in your life that was hard to prepare you for your future. You're being molded. He is the potter, you are the clay, and all this stuff is going together at the same time. In history, now, we're in the nuclear age and all this kind of stuff. So, God not only knew all of history, but He chose to put you here now. What does that say about you? What does that say about you? That you would be alive at a time where there's role-playing video games, so you can have the concept of you're an individual alive in the earth trying to level up. That way when you get past the earth and go to the new earth, everything's righteous. You know what I mean? What depth of concept do we have about the unseen realm, because we know what Bluetooth is, and electricity, and cell phone towers, and all this other stuff. We have a grand example of the unseen realm and how it has an effect on our daily life. So you get a call from someone, and they say, "You need to pay your bill." Well, you've been over here working in your sweat, blood, tears, and toil to get this money, And then because the unseen realm reached out and made your phone ring, you know what I mean? Now you're taking that money and bleep, blop, bloop, sending the money to whatever, to pay your electric bill. But you can't see the electric, but now somehow the air conditioner works. So that's cool. Literally, pun intended. So they didn't have that. What else did they not have? There's evidence of the Holy Spirit all throughout the Bible or whatever, but the Holy Ghost and the Helper that fell at Pentecost, 50 days after Jesus fulfilled the law of atonement, he told them, tarry there and I'll send you a helper. Okay? So at that point, some things changed. You know what I mean? And then we see this, there's a form of religion without power. So that's like the BS. So what's the real church with dunamis power? And what does that look like? And then we see the counterfeit everywhere. We see the counterfeit everywhere. That way people will be all nonchalant and blow it off. You got evidence of alien, flying saucers and stuff, right? You know what I mean? Well, what does an angel look like at a distance? What does an angelic being look like at a distance? You know what I mean? There's all these stories and folklore about going out and slaying the dragon. And we know that there was dinosaurs. And then right there in, Glen Rose, Texas, right there in the fossil, right there on the creek bank, you see the dinosaur footprint and human footprints walking side by side. And if anybody's going to ride a dinosaur, it's some guy from Texas. I mean, this story adds up. Is it fantastic? Is it fantastic to think that some dude in Texas rode a dinosaur? Well, you can see where the dinosaur walked up there, and then the guy hopped off his back, and then they both walked off because the footprints are right there. It's in Glen Rose, Texas. You can see it for free, just the cost of travel. You know what I mean? Anyways, all this is playing out. So different people are at different age and stage. I'm not going to be mad at the people if they've been confused by all of this. But I, myself personally, want to get to the bottom of this. And then, I love God. You know what I'm saying? I love my wife. I love my kids. But I put God above them. If there's a line of stuff, it's like God, His business, and then family. So that gets us back into this other deal. I'm making this way too long. I will stop here. So we're on Team Jesus, right? We're on the team of the Creator. He gave us a chance. He's put me in coach. I'm ready to play type of deal, right? So we were created. He knew what we would choose. He built us to be able to handle everything our life would have, however long or short it may be, whatever position, whatever type of, situation we were going to be in. He built us to deal with that. And if we choose Him, then, like He draws us, but we have to choose. Are we going to live righteous or are we going to live bad? So that's where we're at. I got like 5 more things that are, every one of them's substantially long. So I'm going to cut this off here and put this out there. And I love you guys, man. And I want you to, I'm just documenting the journey, you know what I mean, on the one hand. And then I want to share with everybody on the other. And I'm not sure what that looks like or how I'm supposed to go about it. So I'm just kind of winging it. Yeah, so all right, Raquel. Go get them.